Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another weather forecast. And in this video, we're going to be talking about tropical storm Epsilon, which actually just formed earlier today in the mid-northern Atlantic, and it's likely to become a hurricane, most likely only a Category 1, but if it does find some more favorable conditions, somehow it could very well become maybe a weaker Category 2, but it does not seem like it's going to hit any land. The only land that's really at risk or a threat for impacts is Bermuda, and Bermuda's still in the cone. There's still a possibility Bermuda can still get some big impacts. They may just get spared, but who knows? Maybe it could still somehow manage to stay a little bit more to the west to hit Bermuda. So if you're in Bermuda, I would not rule out the possibility. I would just take minor precautions for now. And as it does get closer to the end of the week, like Thursday and Friday before the weekend, then when you have to make your decision what you want to do depending on the forecast at that time. But travels from Epsilon, so we're getting further and further in the Greeks. I believe the next one is Zeta. I believe that is the next named storm. But without further ado, let's get into this tropical forecast. So it actually has been quite a while since I made a tropical forecast. It's been around a week and a half or 2 weeks. It's just because it's been quite a little break here where it's been very quiet for October so far. I'm hoping it doesn't get jinxed and it's a very active end of the month here. I think we only need one more named storm, and we are tied with 2005. I believe this is our 27th named storm of the season. Obviously 2005 had 28. So we're almost about to beat 2005 here. I mean, we just need one more, whether it's in December, October, or November. Obviously the season ends November 30th, but there's a pretty big likelihood that we could see a December named storm this year, just like what happened in 2005. But Epsilon is at 45 miles an hour. This is only the third advisory. Like I said, it only formed earlier today. But pressure-wise, the pressure's pretty low based on its wind speed. It's actually at 998 millibars. Usually a 45 mile tropical storms, usually at 1,005, 1,004 millibar. But this is actually quite on the lower side, sub 1,000 millibars, and it is nearly stationary. So that is most likely why it'll actually become into a hurricane later on, because it's kind of staying into those slightly cooler waters. But once it moves into the warmer waters near Bermuda, that's when it'll kind of take off there to a Category 1. But really, I mean, it's really moving quite slow. It's nearly stationary. It's probably moving at around 1 to maybe 0 miles an hour, located at 25.5 degrees north and 55.5 degrees west. So it's at this point, it's actually moving around maybe 1 mile an hour or less north-northwest. So it's kind of gradually, or that's moving west-northwest now, and then it's going to start doing a northwestern turn, and then possibly just miss Bermuda. I mean, there's a chance it could maybe slightly hit Bermuda. Not a direct hit, but maybe the eye wall or the outer bands most definitely will affect those areas. And then we have a 10% chance for a formation disturbance here. This has actually been here on the National Hurricane Center site ever since down here, but chances for formation in the next 5 days have gone down as conditions are starting to get a little rough out there in the Western Caribbean. So actually, based on its 45 miles an hour, this does have quite a large wind field. We saw the same thing through Paulette. Paulette had a massive, and I mean massive, wind field. I mean, the wind field is about this half, if not even more than half the size of Georgia. It's way over the size of South Carolina. I mean, it's very large wind fields for not only a 45 mile an hour tropical storm, but for a decent amount of just tropical storms in general. But as you nearly stationary, kind of going northwest or west-northwest, really at this point stationary, so it's kind of hard exactly to track exactly where it's going. But based on the future track, it's expected to continue west-northwest and then kind of go northwest and then go due north. So, like I said, Bermuda's in the cone. The highest likelihood or probability is that it doesn't hit Bermuda, but there's a possibility it could shift a bit more westward and slightly hit Bermuda, if not just spare Bermuda here. But most likely it would not hit Bermuda. But either way, Bermuda's going to get some significant rainfall, potentially tropical storm winds, especially look at that wind field. And since it's going to be doing nothing but strengthening, we expect that wind field to obviously get larger. So definitely expect tropical storm warnings at the minimum for Bermuda. As you do see, it's going to be becoming a hurricane by 2 p.m. Wednesday. It's going to kind of stay at a hurricane as far as Saturday, but obviously will probably continue to be a hurricane, maybe even post-tropical hurricane later in the weekend. But let's check out the tropical storm Epsilon model intensity guidance. As you see, majority gets only to a category 1. Like I said, it's going to be rather weak. But if it really starts to get its act together, it could be a weak category 2, but the best probability, in my opinion, also in the modeled opinion, is that it will stay at around a moderate to maybe high-end category 1. Majority are getting to maybe, or not the majority, a little bit are getting to only a low-end category 1, but I actually think it's going to be more of a high-end to moderate end category 1. But here it is at 45 miles an hour at 40 knots. As the majority blob gets used to a hurricane between the next 48 hours to around between the next 108 hours. So a pretty large gap, but I think the time frames between 48 to 96, I think that's the best time frame to when this could become a hurricane. But the earliest models get us to 24 hours, and those are the ones that get it close to a category 2, if not at a category 2, but obviously most likely will not head to a category 2. So here the model intensity guidance is kind of going due north, kind of northwest right now. Kind of go a little bit west-northwest, and then kind of go northwest from there, and then due north, and then boom, straight to the northeast. So not going to really hit Nova Scotia or Canada, Newfoundland, anywhere. Only one model gets to a landfall, and that is the Hawaiian model, which isn't the most accurate. I hate to break it to you. But the thing is, if it just goes to west-northwest a little bit more, it could I'm not saying it's going to make landfall if that happens, but it's definitely going to get a lot closer, which means more impacts. And with the large wind field it has, imagine how much larger that wind field will be once it actually gets those hurricane force winds. But definitely expect tropical storm winds at the minimum for Bermuda. Storm surge should be less than a foot. Those big, large cement walls should keep the slightly to moderately high waves out of the way here. So here's looking at the new GFS 18Z model, which is actually only 162 hours out. So it is fully reloaded, new data, everything. As you see, the next 18 hours GFS, due to its stalling, it's going to be slowly increasing in speed, not going to be RIing or even close to that. It's going to see only 992 millibar, only a 6 millibar drop in 18 hours. And then once it starts to pick up the pace, then it starts to actually strengthen a good bit. 976 millibars in 48 hours. So based on the GFS, this could definitely become a category 2 here. 978 millibars as it nears Bermuda, and then 976 once again, and then 968. See, that's if it's going to be strengthening once it gets into those clear conditions. So it could definitely be a category 2 once it passes Bermuda. It doesn't have to be a category 2 before it passes Bermuda. It could do what Paulette did. Paulette did the same thing. It kind of weakens right before Bermuda, and then it strengthens once again to a major hurricane. So this is just what we're watching. Obviously, Bermuda just needs to be on the lookout, but let's check out the precipitation. Total accumulated precipitation. Bermuda's going to kind of avoid the worst of the rain, but 1 to 2 inches that's really it. That's 1 to 2 inches. If it continues to move a little bit westward, maybe a few more inches, but the worst of it, obviously, 1 to 2 feet of rain will be way to the west, to the east. So here's looking at the winds here. As you see, in 36 hours, they have been getting to a low end category 1 at 983 millibars to a moderate end category 1, then dropping to weak category 2 status at 977 millibars there. As you see, like I said, there's definitely going to be tropical storm winds for Bermuda without a doubt. Those outer bands there are going to be very large. The wind was quite larger than expected. You do see around 46 to high as 55 miles an hour based on the GFS here. And then once it actually starts to go a bit more northward, then the winds start to really increase now for Bermuda. The northern island possibly can get maybe even 60 miles an hour, but gusts could even be Cat 1 gusts. So hurricane watches are expected, because hurricane gusts could actually happen. Not for a long time period. Maybe just get that one gust that reaches over 75. It's not going to be a frequent hours of 75 plus mile an hour gusts. It's going to be at the minimal, really. Last but not least, we're going to check out another model here on the winds, and as you do see here, they actually have been bringing more impacts. This is actually the CMC here. They're bringing more impacts earlier for Bermuda there. By the next 54 hours, already bringing in around 38 to 46 mile an hour winds. And then once it actually, the CMC is getting a lot closer though. It's getting a lot closer to Bermuda, so it's kind of doing that. What if it's going to do that? What if track? What if it gets closer to Bermuda? What can the impacts be? Well, this is what the CMC is showing. What could happen? As you see, already seeing 54 to 58 miles an hour there. And then once it goes more to the north, that's when it really starts to strengthen there. So gonna just see just 68 to 72 miles just north of the island there. And then you're still gonna be seeing those long time effect winds because of the large wind chill. I mean, look at that wind chill. It's quite large in size there. I mean, really large. So, I mean, there's actually a chance. There's actually a decent chance this could actually get an eye as a weak Category 1. So, as a strong Category 1, maybe weak Category 2. But again, it could definitely... The National Hurricane Cone hasn't come out to the point once it actually passes Bermuda. But there's a chance once it goes over here, it could actually become a Category 2, and that's what models have been supporting. GFS and CMC both supported actually getting stronger to already bring out 85, 90 miles an hour here, surpassing 90 miles an hour by just slightly. So, I mean, there's definitely chances this could be a Category 2 and not just Category 1. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay safe, and bye, everyone.